Long before the idea of fatigue and feeling fatigue about a thing or a group or whatever, we had charades and we had farces. And I still think that those are absolutely dynamite, world-class words right there. Calling something a charade, referring to something as a farce or farcical, those are great. And I'm going to get into the differences and the definition in just a second. But again, we have had feelings of fatigue for as long as we've had human beings. So, forever, for all of recorded history, one person is fed up with the behavior of another, or whatever it might be, or the behavior of a large group of people, or a whole country, or a whole government, whole entities can lead to feelings of fatigue and can feel like it's all just one big charade. What is? What is a charade? Well, modern definition is a pretense or deceptive act when someone or something pretends to be one thing while actually being another. Think their so-called negotiations were just a charade to buy time. From a more literal and historical perspective, it was a charade was a riddle or word game, and that came from 18th century France, which is the only place that the word charade could possibly come from. And then it actually became plain charades. So you would play the game that no doubt you played at some point. But when we say today, I'm sick of this whole charade. What we mean is we're tired of the false performance, the insincere show that somebody's putting on to either manipulate me or to pacify me, whatever it might be. What about farce? This entire thing is a farce. Farce is related to a charade, but carries a distinctly different flavor. From a theoretical or a literal perspective, a farce is a comedic play full of absurdity, exaggerations, improbable events, slapstick humor, and over the top characters. So think about doors slamming shut, people hiding under beds, and cases of mistaken identity popping up all over the place. But we can also think about farce in the figurative sense as when something serious has become so ridiculous that it's become laughable. And I see that everywhere. I see farcical behavior everywhere. The trial was a complete farce. It had nothing to do with justice. Hmm? So, charade, it's about pretense, putting on a mask or a false show. A farce is about absurdity, something being so exaggerated and hollow that it turns into comedy, even when it's not supposed to be funny. Think about from a political or corporate spin, kind of spin machine, a charade. We emphasize the line performance of it. If we call it a farce, we're emphasizing the ridiculousness of pretending that anybody still believes that this is a real thing. So I know things are popping into your head right now as you're listening. Oh, yeah, well, that's a charade. That's a farce. Is anything real at all? We're all, I know, well, I'll just speak for myself. I'm fed up with disingenuous people who tell us what they think we need to hear, what we want to hear in order to get what it is that they want. And calls people liars, certainly. But I think disingenuous that's just the thing that rubs me the wrong way. And you could spot these people from a million miles away. They are disingenuous. And this is the whole fatigue thing. We have disingenuous fatigue, genuine, disingenuous fatigue. You get the idea. We're fed up with it. We want sincerity. I want sincerity in as many people as I possibly can. I want everybody to operate with sincerity, to operate with the spirit of reciprocity. And how in the world could we ever operate or have a reciprocal relationship if I think that somebody is full of full of it, if I feel like they're being disingenuous, if I feel like they're putting on an act, if they're playing charades with me, I'm sick of it. We are fed up. Everybody is. We've been overexposed to it between obviously politics, obviously advertising, obviously corporate public relations, social media. Ugh, each of us has been just beaten about the face and head for years, and our tolerance is gone. It's gone. I'm all out of tolerance to give. Is that how the saying goes? Maybe not, maybe. Oh my goodness. And it's funny that a lot of the purveyors of what I've just described of BS, they have not quite caught up to the fact that we know that they are BSing us. Sure, there are still segments of the population, older folks, maybe very young people, who are still eating what they're being fed by those parties that I just went through. But for anybody who is paying attention or who cares enough to go one layer deeper than simply what soundbite some a-hole politician or corporate person is saying to me, I can figure out pretty quickly that they're lying, that they're being disingenuous. And once that happens, once I know and I see it everywhere, I find it to be insulting. I find that you are insulting my intelligence, insulting my, I guess that's it. But obviously, we are still tolerating it. And so that's why we're still getting it. But again, it is fatigue, it is exhaustion, that the endless charade, it feels it is gaslighting. And we want voices that cut through the noise. And you can point to a lot of people, and I'm going to go through some examples of people that they're clearly genuine, authentic people. And that word is I fatigue on authenticity as well. Why I chose sincerity, because we're not quite exhausted by that one yet. But sincerity works because we feel relief when we are given honesty. We might not like it, but we prefer it, even if it stings. It brings me back to earth. I find grounding in it. Remember Charles Barkley, when he was at the height of his powers as an NBA player and then became his first sort of corporate sponsorship pitch guy deal was, I'm not a role model. I'm not a role model. But it was shocking at first, and it led to a ton of debate. But it was true. He did not consider himself to be a role model. He did not desire, he did not want to be a role model. So we connect, and also we connect with people that are flawed. If I'm looking at somebody that is holding themselves out to be a perfect human being and is presenting themselves in such, well, no, that's preposterous. There's nobody who is perfect. In fact, the one of the most important traits of human beings is that we are imperfect, that we're fallen, that we are prone to make mistakes and to sin and to fall down and to get back up. So when you're holding yourself out in your charade or your farce to be perfect, it's clearly fake. We could see right through it. We could see right through it. And when you are operating from a place of sincerity, of authenticity, and you be yourself, you can keep operating in the world. Look at Snoop Dogg. Look at Snoop Dogg. I remember the first time that I heard his name. I remember thinking, well, that's a really dumb name. His name is Snoop Dogg. Boy, I didn't know what I was getting myself into with that. But he has continually evolved. He's continually reinvented himself, but he's never pretended to be anything other than what he is or who he is, rather. And that consistency over time, I think that is another aspect of sincerity that we can trust because they've taken so many different slings and arrows over the years, but they have stayed consistent. They've stayed sincere. I think that that's a really, really powerful thing. You could think about Dave Chappelle. He has absolutely refused to soften his comedy to fit the climate or whatever. Quite the opposite. He's steered right into it or against it, however you want to think about that. Joe Rogan is has been going through it. He became kind of a lightning rod during COVID. I think before COVID, before Joe Rogan went against the orthodoxy, he was just another guy. He had the biggest podcast in the world and is a hilarious comedian and all the things that Mr. Rogan is, super impressive. But all of a sudden, he went against the farce. He went against the charade. He said the emperor has no clothes. And now all of a sudden, there's a lot more scrutiny on the guy. But I think that he is sincere. You could disagree with me. Ricky Gervais, hilarious, hilarious, getting up on stage with a beer in his hand in front of Hollywood elites and just ripping into them. If you've not seen that monologue from a couple years ago, do yourself a favor and just go ahead and listen to that. There's plenty of athletes right now like Draymond Green and Marshawn Lynch who are just doing the thing. They're doing their thing in a very genuine, authentic, sincere way, and it's clear. You might not like any of it, but I believe that they're unapologetically themselves, and that's what we hunger for. Obviously, we talked about Charles Barkley, but there's lots. Certainly in the world of athletics, Muhammad Ali, who has transcended athletics, and to a degree, Charles Barkley probably has as well, but became the voice of a generation. So, I mean, he refused to back down from his beliefs. He dodged the draft. He all amazing, and obviously, they all paid the price for it. But he made the choices that he made, and rest in peace. I think that he probably died a contented human being. At least I certainly hope. And you can go and look at cultural characters. You can look at musicians. You can look at, there's so many different examples of people standing up to standing up to the tide for lack of a better term and standing their ground. And I think that I know that I have always respected people who are brave enough to do that, brave enough to take a stand, brave enough to speak their mind. And that's all contingent upon being brave and speaking what they believe to be the real deal, not just getting up and yelling or screaming or using using what is the term that I'm searching for? Speaking tricks. You could think about some of our great politicians are excellent at delivering a speech, but it doesn't mean that I don't think that they're full of it. And there's plenty of podcasters out there. There's plenty of people on television that I look at and I'm like, who is believing what this person is saying? I think it's all such a charade. It's all such a farce. And I'm exhausted by it. But there's plenty of lights out there. There's plenty of people who are doing what I perceive to be good work. And that's always how it goes. There's always going to be a balance. There's always going to be cycles that we go through where we figure things out and we learn and we use our critical thinking skills to take in information, apply our values to them, and then make determinations and decisions if this is a person that I want to continue giving my, resources to. And I think it's so important to be considering those things because how I allocate, who I decide to give my time, attention, energy, and money to, that's what it's all about. And if you're frustrated, if what I've talked about today is resonated, if you're experiencing frustration with, be it a something in the corporate world, something on the cultural side, something in politics, something in sports, and you're like, why this just doesn't make sense to me. Why are we focused on this? Why is the messaging this way? I think that it really benefits us to take a big step back and really dig into this stuff. If you are taking somebody's word for it, if you are listening and consuming to the information that they're putting out, and you consider it to be true or gospel truth or valuable information that you can take and make action decisions on, well, I would make sure that you go through and you vet these people. Because while the internet has certainly made things a lot easier, it also has made it harder because there's a lot more people out there saying things. And it's not always crystal clear who these people are, what they were doing, and what they really believe. But at some level, our BS detector can go off and we can recognize disingenuous people. So I'm tired of it. I'm confident you're tired of it too. And I guess foundationally, fundamentally, importantly, if we start demanding or not giving oxygen to the people slash organizations slash entities, whatever, that we feel are bad actors, that we feel are disingenuous, that we feel are just snowing us and gaslighting us to get our vote or our click or our money or whatever, then we'll probably move a little bit closer to the way that we want to be able to consume information. If we no longer tolerate disingenuous people having our ear, having our eyes, having our attention, I think that that's all going to be for the better. So, sounds easy, does hard. But as always, do your part by doing your best.